When I first read it, I knew about the two characters I would play, Louisa Ray and Miriam. That they told me right away. When I got the call saying there are two more characters they want you to play, I just couldn't imagine in my wildest dream what other two women could I possibly play. And then I found out, no, one is a man, and then one is a Jewish German woman. And I thought, wow, I mean, I never would have thought those would have been characters offered to me. So I just got more and more excited as the days went on. What I think about my characters is that if I take the idea that it's one soul, I start off as old native woman, and to me she was the least evolved. And then I move on to Jocasta, who's a bit more evolved, but yet she's living as, like, I called her a ghost of a person. She's living, but she's sort of a shell of a person. She's not really seen, so she doesn't have a voice. And then I go on into the next life to be Louisa Ray, who's struggling very hard to find her voice and find her strength and live up to her father, which she does. And then I go on to play Dr. Ovid, a man, an educated doctor in a way, a surgeon. And then I go on to play a woman, Marinum, who ultimately is part of saving the world as they know it. So I think each one of those characters, the soul evolved in order to have the strength to be the character that I ended up being. What I can say is it's been a once-in-a-lifetime filmmaking experience. I will never be a part of another film like this in my life. I know it. So therefore, it's always going to be special, and I'm going to always remember the experience and everything I got from it. I knew all of their works, of Tom Tykwer and the Wachowskis. I don't think there's a person on the planet who had not seen The Matrix and who didn't understand sort of the revolutionary filmmaking they brought to the industry with that movie. And many people have copied since then, so of course I knew. And Tom, I knew some of his work. Of course, one of my favorites was Run, Lola, Run. And I knew him to be a very sensitive and dramatic director, and I love to work with those kinds of directors. So for me, I was very excited.
I mean, it's clearly interested in souls and the potential for souls to improve. Some do. Tom Hanks's soul seems to improve. He starts evil in the 1850s, and by the end is a hero. Some souls never get better like mine. In fact, in some ways they get worse. I think each story is told with a nod towards its traditional genre. Like the 1973 story is a thriller, and the Sierre story is science fiction. The 1856 story is, period drama. But what they've done is, although they nod in those directions, they don't go too far, because then there would be a great crunching of gears when you cut between the stories quickly. And I didn't know if that was going to work. And then when I saw this 8-minute montage, which they put together the other day, it works superbly. It's fascinating.
I've enjoyed playing him because I think he's a character who sets out with a very clear goal and will not be knocked off course. And those people are sort of fascinating to me. And he's quite ruthless, really. Although he can pretend to be charming and harmless and innocent even, he's pretty tough. Another thing that's very liberating about the film is that no one's carrying it solely, you know? I think Tom was talking about that. It's an ensemble thing. Yeah. Everyone's responsible.
Well, there are 6 apparently unrelated stories, but which are linked in various ways, and each story seems to have a different genre and set in a different time, and each one draws you onto the next, and you go, and you return to the earlier ones, and it's They're all gripping narratives, each and every one of them. And that is something that obviously really appeals to an actor, and I think that's a great idea. And it was astonishing that actually it's hard to think of any film that's done it at all, certainly to that extent. There are various sort of star vehicles where the leading actor has played several parts, but where the whole sort of raft of actors will be playing a raft of characters is quite unique, and it's puzzling why it hasn't happened before, really.
Reading the script is kind of extraordinary, but it's almost impossible to really read the script unless you have the key as to who's playing which characters, because then you see the amazing genius of it. Because, for example, Tom Hanks may ask a question at the end of a scene set in 1845 or whatever it is, and the answer is given in the first line of the next scene, which is set in 2350 or whatever, but the answer is also given by Tom Hanks. The thing that I really, really felt deeply connected to was the idea that we are all manifestations from the same source, and that we are completely interconnected as a race. And that has been the way since human beings evolved. And that what one person does have an effect on somebody else, not necessarily in the most obvious of ways.
From speaking to Lana and Andy when I met them in the Covent Garden Hotel, and hearing their ideas and what they were hoping to achieve with the film, and the multi-role thing, and that the fact that you were playing a soul and your soul has a particular journey. You know, you're not just playing sporadic characters just for the sake of multi-character playing. You know, there's a specific reason for every character that you play. There's nothing more exciting than an actor to suddenly start feeling this character come to life. And when you're getting all this prosthetics and your face is sort of changing slowly over the course of sort of 2 hours, you know, it's pretty exciting. And then you didn't quite know maybe what you were going to do with the character until you're in full makeup and costume, you know, and then suddenly you're there and it's happening.
This whole movie is an actor's dream. I mean, not only to play different characters, which is wonderful, but also to play with such a wonderful group of actors. You know, everyone whose work I highly respect and have seen and enjoyed, and then to watch them work on this set is like, man, it was a wonderful thing for me to see that, you know, these same guys whom I do respect and whose work I respected from a distance, when you see them on the set, I have even more respect for them, because, you know, they have great work ethic, and they're wonderful people. I think they'll love the action parts of it, the cinematically, they'll like it. I think people will love the acting, and the way the story keeps that all together and makes all those elements click.
Love conquers all, I think, is a nice theme. I'm always very game for love stories, and this has many love stories in it. Choice, about choice, what you do in the choices of your life, and how you can be a slave to your own demons, and how that can ruin your future. But my character says, when she's repeating I think I can remember part of it, that our lives are not our own, and from womb to tomb, you're connected to people, and every act of kindness or crime births your future. So that somehow, even when you don't necessarily know, that you're affecting people, somehow down the line that happens. I do think this film is epic, both in its ideas and its scope and its visuals. And for me, I want to be in something that entertains and hopefully moves you. That's why I'm always doing love stories of one kind or another. But something that when you go out afterwards, you can argue about or talk about, and when you wake up the next day or you have lunch the next day, there's something that nags at you, something that changes your framing, even if it's just for a short period of time on life. I mean, that's what cinema, I think, can do that other things can't do, is give you an opportunity by taking on the perspective of a character that you thought you had nothing in common with, and seeing the world through that character, and seeing things just slightly differently.
At first, I had no idea what character they were thinking for me. But after I finished reading the book and script, it's strange, but I felt a connection to Somi.
That is a very interesting experience for me, because I will be a clone in the future, so I have this amazing outfit as a clone and a wig, and I love that look very well, a very plastic look, clone look, or emptiness in my eyes, and we do things like, you know, how may I serve you, and singing this song. Megan Sixsmith is the major role for me in this movie. I only got one line, but I really like that line. We're saying he believed that, my uncle believed that love is real. It's kind of natural phenomenon, and love could outlive death. And I think it's a very beautiful line that also is a message to deliver to the audience. So I've rehearsed that like many times by myself, and I finally got the chance to say it. I was so happy.
So many times in movies you are working by yourself, or you're working with the same two people, and no matter how delightful it is, you know, you can yearn for something different. This movie has gone by in the wink of an eye as far as shooting it goes, because every day we are either starting a sequence that is loaded with brand new folks, or we're finishing a sequence that was so much fun to make because of the 3 or 4 or 5 other people that were in it. To me, the whole great thing about being an actor is you get to hang with other really talented, funny, driven, competitive folks that raise your game. You're part of a great team. The physicality of it and the vocal qualities of it are going to have to come out of a very organic place. That's a big chore when you're only playing one role. When you're playing 6, time is your enemy because you don't have as much. A huge amount of the truth of human nature that goes along with it, but I would say more than anything else, and just based on the 10 minutes that I've seen of it, it's going to have a scope that's bigger than anything I've ever seen. It's not just a matter of style; it's a matter of philosophy that these guys are doing. You know, a lot of great directors could come in and they shoot, and you can see the previses and the animatics and the storyboards. You say, "Oh, you get it," and you can see where it's getting. But there is just like some buildings are just doors and windows and floors and elevators and stairways, and other buildings are great architecture. I think this movie is going to have magnificent, stellar architecture.